Okay guys, so I'm going to start up a part 2 bonus add-on tutorial to the last one here. And just to get started on that, I'm just going to pull up this Buffalo News article from, I think yesterday, yeah, Thursday, April 11th, showing some of the one of the new installations, permanent installations that's going on at the Albright Knox in the next few years. This is an installation by Olafur Eliasson. This is a covering of the current courtyard of the Bundschaft edition. And you can see some kind of similar themes to what we've been looking at in the class. I'm going to skip over the OMA proposal just for a moment, just to kind of look at this form, and you can get a sense for it. So it reminded me actually quite a bit of the British Museum, which is why I decided to shift gears and cover that one today. And we're going to use the same process that we just went through to model the form of the British Museum in order to model this form for the Albright Knox. And you can see the kind of the roof of the Bundschaft courtyard here, or the kind of, yeah, the roof part of it here, and then the lower part at ground level. And from that level to the lower level, there's this kind of reaching down in this funnel-like form in a structure quite similar in some ways to what we just modeled with the British Museum, aside from the fact that there's a nice little detail in here that we can maybe cover in a future tutorial. But I just wanted to kind of point this out and add this to our kind of class time today. And this is what we'll produce, this kind of effect on the inside, without all the depth and structure, just the form for now. Okay. So the other thing then, what you should do now is, because we won't be needing to do a lot of scripting here, 90% of these components will remain the same, but we just need to do some Rhino work. So go ahead and save this as something. Okay, and we can start up a new Rhino file and a new Grasshopper file. Well, yeah, you can start up a new file and copy paste everything in, or what I'll do is just kind of save this as something else. So once I save it first, I could save it a second time as in this case AKAG roof or something. So now I have two files, and this is the one that I'll update, and now I can go ahead and start up a new Rhino file. Or just model it over to the corner. That's also an option. In any case, I'm going to get started. So I'm going to go to the top view, and I'm going to model it down here. And I'm going to, instead of a rectangle, I'm going to draw a square. And I'm going to hold Shift to draw that square so that it's perfectly square. So I'm going to do that. And then inside of that square, I'm going to draw a smaller square. So in order to do that, I'm just going to use my gumball holding Alt and Shift at the same time. So Alt, Shift, and then grab this little red or green extender off of the gumball. And I'll draw a smaller square in like this. And yeah, maybe we can go a little smaller, I guess. I don't know. Something like that, for example. Then I'm going to draw a circle from that center point, turning on my O-snap. And I'm just going to draw a circle around that as well. Maybe something like a little bit bigger. It could be right at the corner. Depends on what you want to do. I'm going to just do it like this. All right, so that's we're getting started on that first step. The next step then is to kind of give it some height. So I'm going to grab the outer rectangle square and the inner square. And I'm going to hold Alt and then grab this blue axis on my gumball and just lift that up like that. And that's going to make a copy as I hold Alt as it's moving it up in the Z direction, like that. Okay. And, you know, drop it up to a height maybe that seems about proportional to what we're looking at. This is probably higher than actually the Albright Knox, but that's okay. It doesn't really matter. It's just an example. So something like that, basically. And then I'm going to take this square and increase its size with the same process, without holding Alt this time. No reason for a copy. And I'm just going to increase it a little bit. If I look at my top view, you can see that I've made that one a little bit larger now. This is variable. I'm going to keep it around this proportion, but you can experiment a bit with this. And that's the basic setup for the line work. The next step is to just start creating our surfaces in here so we can build the meshes. And I'm going to minimize this and fire up a different layer. I guess we can go back into my default layer there. Go to surface, corner points, and I'll start with just the top. And I'm just going to start connecting the dots around here. We don't have to do any splitting here because we're just dealing with squares. No, nothing too fancy. I'll go ahead and ghost that so you can see it. And turn off center once again. It gets annoying. Okay. And you can go ahead and drop in 4 surfaces like this. And then in order to start creating the basic funnel shape, I'm going to grab one corner like that, and then I'm going to start connecting the dots between the two, those two squares that I drew, the one above and the one below, like that. And what I'm doing is, again, similar to what I did before when I approximated the circle. I'm kind of approximating the funnel in this case, you know, by making it a box that's tapering downward. And the relaxation is going to handle the rest for us. It's going to make it, it's going to give us the form we want. And that's basically that for the base modeling. So let's open up Grasshopper again, and you know, again, the same script that we were just using, we could use again. This time, just updating the inputs. So, first thing we'll do is right-click on the surfaces that we set and clear those values out, so it all goes orange. And then right-click again and select the multiple surfaces that we're trying to work with now. So I'm going to select those 8 surfaces and put those in. And you can see that we're already starting to draw our diagram around. You can go ahead now and turn off that layer again so that we don't see it. That's good. Okay, great. So get to yourself to about to this point here. The next thing we're going to do, before I forget, what we don't want to do is use this component here. Remember the one that we grabbed, that just grabbed the anchors from the corner points? Well, we don't want to anchor these down here. We want to force all of these to coexist with that circle. So we can't necessarily use this unless we remove those points. I find it to be a little bit faster if we just delete that. Everything will go blank for a minute. That's not a problem. And just draw points in Rhino at only the top 4 corners, like so. All right, select those points you just drew, and then just put them into a point parameter and replace those that anchor input. Okay, I paused for a minute there. For whatever reason, my anchors kind of threw some errors when I did that. So what I did is I kept those 4 points, and I just dropped in a new anchor component. So I went to kangaroo anchor, put in a new one. All right, and then I just disconnected this old one, and I seem now to be having more success here. Okay, and the last thing is going to be to update these inputs. Remember that these curves are still associated with the other file. In fact, if you opened up a new file, you probably already went orange here. So let's take a look at which one is which. Okay, so this top one here is what we want to bring to the circle. So let's leave that on, and now let's take this and clear it out. And go ahead and set the circle that we drew originally, like that. And do the same thing for that top rectangle. Okay, we know that this is going to be our top rectangle, so I'm going to select that. All right. Make sure all that's updated. That looks good. And we should be good to go here. So let's go ahead and turn this down before we start inflating anything, just to make sure we're relaxing properly. Okay. All right, we got a nice relaxation going. Now, the form here, you can see, is not really too good. It's not looking like we wanted it to. What's nice about this is that it's interactive. We can take that original circle that we drew, select it in Rhino, and squeeze it down to a new size, hit reset. Maybe we should make that a little bit larger. Looks like I'm having some. There we go. So there are limits to this interactivity, as you can see, but I've got something going here where I can make some changes on the fly. I can drop that down a little bit, give it some more height, and you get the idea. The other thing is, unfortunately, we made this, it looks like we made this a little bit too large. And this is not interactive because this changes the mesh, but you get the sense that at least we're just starting to draw the funnel. But if you draw this, you know, before when we drew the tapered box and this, we brought this thing up and scaled it up. If you keep that a little bit smaller, you'll probably get it a little bit closer to what that looks like. So it's not as if we did anything wrong. We're just gotta, it's a trial and error process typically that gets this to work. And the last step then is to just go ahead and increase some of the force on all of this so we can start seeing some shape come out. And that's a bit extreme, so let's reduce that. And yeah, that's looking pretty close, I'd say. Maybe give it a little bit more just for fun. But that general shape is pretty much where is a good place to start, I'd say, in terms of modeling this new addition to our art gallery. And you know, for a better screenshot, obviously you probably want to hide some of that base condition. You could, you know, make sure you're turning off older previews and having a look in different kind of views, if you whatever you find to be most inspiring. Anyway, just a little bonus, and you know, something I thought you'd be interested in checking out because it's something that's potentially going to be built soon here in Buffalo, and relates very much to the example that we just looked at from Foster & Partners. Okay, have fun with that, and see you next time.